Hi, colleagues. I created this screencast to offer my own reflections on the wiki that we've been developing together. And I want to both affirm some of the things that you put in the wiki and also offer challenges to you to hopefully expand all of our thinking further and our action further over time. So what's there and what's missing so far? By the way, I'm realizing, because we haven't done the wiki this way before with the chart, I'm realizing that I need to name some categories in different ways so that I can more clearly invite what I see as missing from the wiki. So this is not in any way a challenge that is meant to imply that you should have seen the challenges that I'm going to offer you. So what's there? Some really thoughtful comments about how students might respond to discrimination and bias. And some of your comments have pushed my own thinking. I really appreciate that. It's one of the things I love about working with faculty. And there are great insights about how we should treat our students in our classroom and also in our individual interactions with them. There's not a lot yet in the wiki, although I just went in and saw that there were some new things, which I'll include in this screencast. But there's not a lot yet in the wiki about how we can become proactive to live into our Edgewood value of leading ethical change and advocating for social justice. And I'll explain what I mean. So first of all, some things that you wrote in the wiki. Debbie wrote, students who have disabilities might perceive injustice related to their value, their perceived intelligence. Sometimes someone with a physical disability that doesn't allow them to enunciate might be interpreted as having a low IQ. Perceived contributions to the society or perceived contributions to the classroom. They might have felt or been perceived as a burden or perceived as not having the ability to perform well in the workplace. So all things that probably almost everyone with disabilities has experienced some of these things over their lifetime, and bring that experience to the classroom. I want to note something that I was just noticing as I looked at this, and the category that is about bilingual students who are still mastering academic English. They might be able to speak really fluently, just interpersonal English, but academic English, the language of your content is still very challenging, and some of the grammar structures, more subtle, complex grammar structures might still be challenging. You could go down this list and actually apply every one of these to our bilingual students. And we have done focus groups where our students have talked to us about how they felt in their classrooms at Edgewood. Some faculty have been able to really help them shine in the classroom. Some faculty have made them feel like they have a disability because of the second language issue. So they have experienced a sense of being perceived as not as valuable to the discussion, being perceived as not having the intelligence that they are able to display in their home language, being perceived as a burden when they're doing group work because they're not, the groups are not set up in a way that's sensitive to the needs of English language learners, and their perceived ability to perform. So I'm going to offer you also a list of things that I've put together over time. We've worked on this with faculty over time and students. A list of things that you can do in the classroom to support specifically bilingual students. This is like universal design, but universal design for bilingual students. So thank you, Debbie, for that list in the wiki. Students may feel the need, Joe was saying this about undocumented students, they may feel the need to hide because of fear of being put into a situation where the anxiety level would increase. There are so many issues like this for young people who are undocumented. For example, being asked about driving to a place or why they don't have a driver's license. That's in one of the videos in our resources. That's a really common way that students start to perceive anxiety, or not having the appropriate ID for certain situations, not being able to go on a trip with others. So this is a really common one. Students might feel the need to, this comes from Amanda talking about students of color, may feel the need to correct injustices that appear minor to others. And because of the cumulative effect of many, many such injustices. So some students react to a lifetime of bigotry and injustice by starting to get really sensitive to even subtle cues about injustice. Other students turn more inward, and this gets to her second point, that they may feel the need to accept statements or behaviors that cause discomfort or offense due to power imbalances. So some students go inward and don't speak out. They feel really isolated. And those are the students that we have talked to the most who have become very depressed, and who tell us they just feel so invisible. And if they have spoken out at Edgewood in their classrooms, they have felt marginalized by other students. And so they've learned to just be silent. And silence was a huge theme in our focus groups with students of color at Edgewood. Students may feel supported when we become aware of microaggressions that we exhibit as instructors and adjust accordingly. This is from Susan. I think that awareness is one of the most important things we can learn over time. And awareness doesn't just mean, this is really, if you bring nothing else from our discussions together, and if I bring nothing else, this is something I want us all to bring away with us, that it's not enough to just be nice. It's not enough to just be respectful to everybody. That, of course, is a starting place. But if we really want to become aware of how our words and our actions are impacting others, we actually have to begin to learn about the particulars. We have to learn about the particular experiences of different marginalized groups in our society. And once we learn about the particulars, then we can become proactive about what we say and how we design our curriculum and what we advocate for in our college. So here's getting to the challenge. I want to challenge all of us to think now, not just about our interpersonal behavior, but about things that we can do proactively to support our students. One example comes from Debbie again. Have a classroom that's easy to get to navigate in, and learn in. If we have students with disabilities and we're upstairs and the elevator's broken, say that a student uses a wheelchair, we need to advocate and make sure, hopefully in advance of when the class starts, that that elevator is working, that if we notice something's not working, or the automatic door opener in the front of Predolin is not working, that we advocate and ask for that to be fixed. Funds of knowledge approach. This is another way to be proactive. And this actually can get really complex, probably much more complex than any of us have time to really get into with all that's on our plates. But there are pieces that we do have time to do. This comes from Louis C. Moll. And the basic idea is that we need to tap into students' prior experiences to help them make connections to the curriculum. Back to Patty Cross, making connections. But this is really about understanding students' prior experiences and making sure those are linked. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So for example, many veteran students, John just wrote in the wiki about veteran students, many of our veteran students have experienced living abroad. If there's any way to connect that to our curriculum, and for most of us there is, we can bring up, does anyone have experience living abroad? How is this topic handled when you are in a different country or a different culture? So many of us can make those connections in our curriculum, and we then are being veteran student friendly, because the veteran student might raise their hand. They might not, but they might raise their hand and offer some really deep insights about living abroad. And I want to say one more thing about this. When I was teaching ESL bilingual education in our School of Education at Edgewood, my most enriching experience was when we had the 2+2 grant, where we were having very diverse groups of MATC students come into our classroom and join our students. They were taking classes together on a grant that allowed those students to then transfer to Edgewood to finish their ESL bilingual licenses. All of a sudden, the discussions of culture, language structure became incredibly rich because we had that diversity to tap into in the classroom. So thinking about what student prior experiences might be like is really critical to bringing everyone alive and connecting everyone to our curriculum. For many students, just simply the experience of racism is important to bring into the classroom. This came up over and over in our focus groups with students of color, that the faculty that bring up how racism impacts their field of study are the faculty that make them feel really included and really motivated. So for example, a faculty member who is talking about a disease like diabetes and who talks about inequity in how folks can access treatment, folks who have diabetes, you know, how undocumented folks are often afraid to go to the doctor, all of those types of things. If you're aware and you just mention and bring up those things and maybe bring in a study or two that connect to those issues, it makes people feel deeply connected because this is the experience of their families or themselves or their ancestors over time, and you're connecting to their own inner life in your curriculum. 33% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual students and 38% of transgender students seriously consider leaving their institutions due to climate concerns on campus. One of the things that we've heard from students in this population is when a faculty member just has in some of their slides, in their PowerPoint in passing, members of the same gender holding hands, it causes them to feel a deep sense of connection and again, that sense that they themselves are reflected. The curriculum is not making them invisible, or bringing up examples of couples that aren't always about marriage, for example, or that recognize same-sex couples. There are very simple things that we can do day to day that make a huge difference in that campus climate. So the idea is ending what's often called by our students white silence about racism, and I would include about genderism or sexism, homophobia. End the silence. We are not supporting our students fully when we simply avoid and ignore these topics. We live in a society where these isms are affecting every aspect of our fields of study and how we apply those out in the world. So if we're trying to connect our students to the bigger pictures of our curriculum, what we say we're doing at Edgewood, helping people live lives of ethical leadership, we can't ignore social justice issues in our classrooms. So partnership and community, know the campus resources. They're in the syllabus for this class that you're in, for this cohort group. We have that syllabus template for any of you if you want it. It lists all of our campus resources. Actually, there's a new one that this resource is not listed yet, so we need to add that. But it lists many of the campus resources. And then we need to also consider, there's one other resource that's not on there yet. Tony Garcia, our director for the Center of Diversity and Inclusion, is organizing community navigator trainings. These are trainings for faculty, staff, and I believe students too, who want to help students who are undocumented navigate the system. So please contact him if you're interested in doing that. And then John's ideas. John put a lot of ideas, I hope you'll look at them in the wiki, that really have to do with partnership, including veteran students when we design new programs to invite their feedback. Maybe asking our departments to invite undocumented and veteran students to talk about how we can make curriculum that, or interact in classrooms in ways that are inclusive. So thinking about that for all the groups in the wiki, I think take a look at these ideas, freeze the video and look at John's ideas, or look at them in the wiki. There are many partnerships we can create. We have some good ones at Edgewood. There's our Veteran Students Coordinator. So thanks so much.